So let's talk about AI. Now, this conversation might seem a little hard opinion and a little harsh worded, but I've been doing a lot of research recently and listening to a lot of conversations about AI in art, and I feel like there's a lot that's just not being considered, including some of the positives and just a lot of bunk arguments. And yeah, that'll lead me right into my first one. Oh, and I'll probably reference photography a lot in this if I make any reference to art, just out of sake of ease, but you can basically replace that with any art form that you have an interest in. So let's get into the first one. And the first one is, this isn't personal, but your feelings don't matter. AI is going to happen, it is happening, and whether you like it or not isn't really a good argument, and it doesn't really change much. In fact, the people who care even less about your feelings are the people who are developing and therefore will make money from AI. And now, obviously, I don't say that to just be offensive. It's not personal. I have my own opinions about AI also, but I just feel like I'm listening to the same people who didn't think touch cell phones were going to take off, or that internet was really going to be a widespread thing, or that sampling was going to kill music. It's the same people that came and talked to me about Instagram, how it's, oh, I don't want to be there. It's just people taking photos of food, and I don't want to be on TikTok. It's just, you know, teenagers dancing. And now 2, 3, 4 years later, after their launch, after they spent all that time not wanting to be a part, then come to me and ask, like, how do I get followers on Instagram? Or, you know, how do I get my business on TikTok? It's like, these things can largely benefit you if you don't waste your time sitting around just checking on them, and start to consider how they can actually be beneficial towards you, which I think they can in many ways. The second most common argument that I keep hearing is that AI is not art, and it's just referencing other art that's already being created. What do you think you've been doing? You go on Instagram, you go on Pinterest, you pull in inspiration. Some of you go outright and steal from bigger accounts and just copy what they're doing. You follow trends, you use trending songs, etc. You've just been using the AI to create art, and now you can just do it in a different way. Nothing's really changing. It's just all of a sudden now not okay because you type it at a computer rather than go outside or go to your studio and do it yourself. I don't think anything is really changing. And to add to that, I just don't even think you're even really going to start to notice whether something is original or not, to a point where it's even better that being original than you are. I think we are limited somewhat to our influences, and we do naturally, whether you know it or not, you know, we're going to follow trends and all those kind of things. You might think, I have this really good idea, but you actually saw that 6 months ago on Instagram, and we are flawed in that way. And I believe that an AI might not be. They're also able to just keep potentially adding more and more numbers to that sequence, and with more numbers comes more possibilities of generating sequences that haven't been generated before. So in a way, AI might be able to, and I assume it's going to be able to, create sequences that haven't been created before in a way that humans can't do. And if that already sounds a little bit too deep, I'm sorry. I will try not to go too crazy on this one because it's just been rotating around my head for the past few months. But they say, you know, nothing is original anymore, so I don't see why it's so bad that a computer would then go and do it. It's also said that if you were to shuffle a deck of 52 playing cards, that there's a good possibility that that sequence that they're currently in has never been done before, which is pretty mind-blowing. And it also shows how I think easy it's going to be to create completely original artworks, even though we're referencing things. For example, the playing cards, you know, there's probably one in most households, and we're still able to create original sequences out of a very common and limited amount of possibilities. The third thing that I want to briefly touch on is just something that people always tend to do in their arguments, and I think it's very strange, but they always reference how things have been done and very rarely touch on what is probably going to happen in the future. And in this case, I just mean that, you know, in this question of, is AI images going to take over photographers' jobs, etc.? The answer is often that no, because we still need a human to go and input. Like, we are very close to a point where AI can communicate to AI. We won't need the human interaction, and I feel it's very short-sighted to, you know, just assume that there's still going to be a person sitting in front of a computer putting input prompts. I think it is going to be that way for a while. It's certainly that way right now. I don't think it's going to be that way for very long. As far as where photographers will keep their jobs, I think kind of leads me into my next point that I really want to make, and one thing that I think is actually a net positive. It sounds kind of negative, but try to hear me out here. I think it's going to wash away a lot of the trash. I think we're in a place right now, due to many factors, Instagram being one of them. It's that double-edged sword of social media where you have the possibility to share your work with millions of people, and also we're able to discover, artists that we love because of this app, but we have also been inundated with a lot of average work. And I don't really like phrasing it that way because, again, it's going to sound negative, but I think we can all agree. It's been multiple years now that I have not scrolled my home feed, and I've been very selective about the people that I do follow, so that I'm trying to limit the amount of, things that I just don't want to see. I don't want to see my friend's brunch, and I don't want to see average street photographers, because when I open that app, I'm trying to limit it. I'm trying to be inspired. And for a long time now, I haven't been. And I really just think that there's just a huge influx of work, and I'm seeing trends, and even the great work is not really standing out as much. And I think that's also because there's a lot of very good work. It might not be excellent, but it's very good. And that's amazing. I think it's pushed a lot of people very far, but I just think we've reached this crest of the hill, and I really do think we need a reset. And I think in a weird roundabout way, we're going to come to this point where the people who don't necessarily really, really love and really, really care and or just obsessive about photography in this example, they're going to slowly fade out. And that's okay, I think. And I think what's going to happen is that we're going to be left with the people who are extremely passionate about photography, about doing it and about getting better and about contributing to the art of photography. They are going to be the ones left with a camera in their hands and going out and taking photos and publishing their work. So yeah, that might sound a little cynical or a little bit negative, but to be honest, I feel like we're in need of that reset. There's just so much stuff out there. We've flooded the market. There are certain things like street photography that took a boom not that long ago. And there are certain people who, have been picked up on that boom, and they're going to become great street photographers because they found what they love. They found an obsession. I also think 95% of those people are just kind of in it for a little bit of a hobby, and they're in it for Instagram likes, and they just follow a trend and they do this and that. And to be honest, I don't want to see it. And I think it takes away from the art form as a whole. I know that's going to annoy some of you, and I know you're going to be angry, and I know you're going to say things like, well, what does it matter if their work is good or not? And, it's good that people are just out there doing it. I agree with all of that. I just don't really want to see it. And I also do think that I want to make this argument that it actually detracts away from the art form as a whole. I think there's a lot of people experiencing, and again, in this example, street photography, who just see average stuff because it's very easy to see average stuff. It's pushed to you on your feed. If you look up one thing or you follow one street photographer, you will be suggested a whole bunch more on algorithms and everything, right? And I just don't think you can have value for something if you keep seeing an average version of it. As an example, I grew up not liking films because I would go to the cinema with my friends and, would go see whatever, Pirates of the Caribbean and Scary Movie and these things that were around when I was a youngster. And I didn't really enjoy them. They're okay, but I didn't necessarily want to spend my time and money on there. And then I met a guy who showed me things like The Machinist and Fight Club and Jim Jarmusch films and Gus Van Sant films, and I was like, oh, they're amazing films, and I love films. But until experiencing a great film, I just thought I didn't like films. And I think what's happening is a lot of people are experiencing average quality of art in general, through things like social media, and they are not giving it value. And when it doesn't have value and people don't give it value, it'll be replaced, and no one's going to care when it gets replaced. But yeah, I hope that didn't sound too crazy, or I hope that made some sense. I don't have a script here. I'm kind of just rambling the thoughts off the top of my head. I've been thinking about this so much in the past week, and I feel like I just need to get a lot of it off my chest. But the change is good, and if some people get swept down the pipeline and they disappear through this whole process of AI taking over art, I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. Things are just going to change. Those people will go on to do something else, maybe something that they're even more passionate about or better at or whatever. And the people who are passionate and obsessed about this thing and were able to create eventually or currently, to create great work, they will continue doing it. And I really do see that as a positive. And finally, I just think AI art is going to push us. It already is. Having a conversation about it, having a conversation about what is art, and is it art if your computer makes it? Is it an art if it's reference from other things? It's already pushing our idea of art, and that's the most important thing about art. It's what we should be doing. I think there's a lot of people being protective and gatekeeping because what they're doing is average, it is boring, but they get paid for it and they want to protect their income and all those kind of things. I don't think that art will ever die. It can't, and it won't. And I certainly don't think AI is going to replace that at all. Unless it replaces humans entirely, then that's a whole other issue at that point. But art is a reflection of our current times and our social commentaries and all those kind of things. And this is another one of them. What we do from here is just going to change. It's going to push us a lot. It's going to change the way things look and the way that we edit and the way that we shoot, what we even think is possible. We're going to try to, trends are going to mimic AI possibilities and all these kind of things, and it's going to push us and pull us in different directions. I think that's beautiful. I think that's what art should be doing. I don't think that technology at all, including AI technologies, are in any way damaging to art, and it's been proven over and over and over and over. Just wrap your head around a little bit. Don't be so angry about it. Try to embrace it. We've had things like drum machines and synthesizers and digital cameras and all these kind of things, and none of those things have been bad. They just changed the way that things were, and for a little while there was some confusion, and after that people found beautiful ways of creating artwork with them. So don't get caught up in that. I think that's enough. I hope some of that made sense. If you think I'm totally crazy and totally wrong or too harsh with my words, let me know in the comments. I'd love to continue this conversation. And like I said, these things have been bouncing around in my head for the past week or so, and I haven't had much people to kind of reflect these thoughts with. I hope that we can have a reasonable discourse, and I'm very curious to hear what you have to say about it. And maybe I'll make another video as the whole AI situation progresses. But if I'm to offer you any final advice, get on it. Figure it out. Figure out how it can help your work. Figure out how it can influence your work. Steal from it. Be influenced by it. Create amazing things with it. Don't butt your head against it, and then 4 years down the road, be trying to figure out, asking someone how to figure it out. It's only going to be a disservice to you. So yeah, as always, happy creating. Peace.